talking as soon as the thing started.
Well, you said it's ready. When ready means ready.
I mean, but if you start talking
Anyway.
as soon as it starts, you don't have time to like
Bump
bring it in.
podcast.
You don't give me nothing to work with, man.
Bump podcast
Bump podcast
between you and me.
between you and me.
So here's the ironic thing about all that. So today we're going to be talking about So You Think You're Ready,
Right.
right? And so it's interesting. I got so many topics to cover so fast on this. It's unreal, but
That should be good then.
it should be. So I started out with So You Think You're Ready because, as I mentioned, I guess last week we started talking about our ultimate move,
Yeah.
and the one that we finally did.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in our new spot.
Getting settled a little bit.
Get settled a little bit. I like it.
Yeah. I was just talking about I like my room a little bit more, actually.
Yeah. And so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But the thing was, we knew it was a quick turnaround time. It was a quick
Yeah, it
turnaround
was real
time.
quick.
So it was like, I mean, we had like a month, maybe a month. It was probably only 6 weeks between us knowing that we were gonna move
To actually move.
to actually moving. Yeah, and so that was interesting. But we kind of tried to put together a plan of action to get us ready, so that when the movers got there,
Right.
that we'd
Right.
be on top of stuff. And man, it seemed to be going along okay, not great, but it seemed to be going okay. But when the movers came, man, it was like, so I mean, we ready,
Right.
we ready, man, and we wasn't ready.
I mean, I feel kind of ready.
Oh
you know?
no, man,
I
we
feel a
weren't ready,
little
man. We weren't ready, and so that's what the whole thought of it. So You Think You Ready came from. It's like, so it's this thing, and it's attributed to Mike Tyson, but I didn't hear Mike Tyson say it itself. But it was attributed to Mike Tyson. It says that everybody thinks they're ready until they get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like that just carries on so far in life. And so like we didn't know until the moves arrived really how much work was going to be put into it.
Right.
And we had a lot of boxes. We did have a lot of boxes, but we also did a lot of running around. We did some sitting down too, but we did a lot of running around. But when we look at life if we look at that as a metaphor for life, it's like we put in this work, or what we think is work. We think we put in our best effort, and then the test comes. And when the test comes, it's like, man, I should have did more to be prepared for the test. And so that's why I wanted to call this,
Having that hindsight.
Yeah, that hindsight. So that's why I want to call it So You Think You're Ready, because I just want to talk about some of the things that we've gone through in our lives that we thought we were ready for, that we weren't ready for. And then try to kind of leave some practical tips or tools or some knowledge, drop some knowledge to whomever is out there in the listening world to our podcast about, how to ramp up or amp up prior to that big day, or prior to the actual time of performance. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, cool. So, what can you talk about that you thought you were ready for, but I mean, when it came down to it, it was like, man.
That's a funny question. There's so many things. Like, that's almost just the nature of life. You never really know how something's gonna be until you experience it. And so you find like the little things like, oh, I could have done more there. I didn't think it'd be so heavy. Even like with the test, like that whole, I'll be studying for a test, you're preparing for a test, and you get to this one section like, I don't think they'll talk about that much. I'm gonna put more time into this section. And then you take the test, and then the whole test is on like that one unit.
Right.
And so that, I feel, is almost congruent with life sometimes. Sometimes you prepare for what you think out of the current knowledge that you have, that things might mean more about, or that your test, so to speak, will be more towards, and you get there and you find out that it was more on something else. Thinking about something specific, I don't know, I'm gonna have to have a little bit of time think about a specific situation. But do you have any?
I do. I'm gonna jump into some stuff, and then you can come back in. And it's like, it's funny. Something else I learned. I guess I learned this more in business than anything. It's you should always under promise and over deliver.
Right.
Under promise and over deliver. And so I guess in my mind, if you look at that as far as preparing for a test or whatever is concerned, it played out so much differently in my head than it did when I just said it. But I'm gonna make it work. So it's like we should really over prepare.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We should over prepare with the expectation that we're
be over prepared.
you'd be over prepared. And so I think we don't do that enough. As a matter of fact, I know I work with interns all the time. I had an intern say to me the other day, was like, so what's the minimum requirement? You know? And then when she said it, I just had like this, ooh, wait a minute. Like if you're, and this is a question she asked her mentor at the lab. And I'm like, man, you lost somebody then. Because, I mean, if you ever walk into a room and you ask what the minimum requirement is, they already know you don't plan on putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? And so we should we should actually, when we're preparing for stuff, we should be making sure that we're not preparing for the minimum requirement.
Right.
We should be preparing for the maximum requirement. Like if you can make 100 on the test, like you should be prepared for 110. You know, and I don't think we do that enough. I don't think we do that enough. And like I said, that's one of the things that I ran into when we were actually preparing for our move. It's like, and I knew, man, I knew stuff was gonna start falling out the woodworks because I mean we had so much. I mean it was 15 years we had in the house, and so, but I just knew without a doubt that there was gonna be a closet that was left, or you know what I'm saying, you know, under something that was left that we just weren't prepared for. And I know I had to go back to the house a couple times, like even just to take stuff to Goodwill. And so I thought we were ready and we weren't. And then you know what? This is funny. Actually, I was going to Salvation Army, and Salvation Army then got so selective that like I had to ride around for days with stuff in my car because Salvation Army wouldn't take it, and
Right.
Goodwill has a window of 12 to 3 when they accept donations.
Oh,
They'll take anything, but their window's 12 to 3, and so I wasn't ready for that either.
Right.
You know, that's probably something I could have researched ahead of time
Yeah.
to find out like Salvation Army is cutting back on the stuff that they're taking, and Goodwill is cutting back on the hours in which they're taking it, and I'd have been more prepared. And so that's just that kind of stuff. So you think you're ready? You got it yet, or you want me to keep rolling?
I'm still thinking.
All right,
honestly.
cool. You ain't thinking, but
I
anyway,
mean, you probably got some for me.
yeah, but I'm not gonna share your stuff. I'm gonna let you share your own.
All right.
I'll tell you. I was listening to Brian Courtney Wilson, and this is not a shameless plug. Brian Courtney Wilson, because I really don't listen to his music. But yesterday, Brian Courtney Wilson was doing an interview, and he was talking about a song that he remade. And the song he remade was from Marvin Gaye, and it was "Make You Wanna Holler," right? And so he was talking about he was talking about how applicable the song is to today, which was cool. How applicable the song is today, even though Marvin Gaye's been dead for. I mean, oh my God! I remember I was still staying in my parents' house, so I had to be my late teens. I remember being in my sister's room, and she graduated. Well, yeah, I ain't gonna tell you how old she is, but she was still in the house. So I mean, it had to be like, you know, in the early '80s or mid '80s when he died. But anyway, and he was talking about how applicable that song is still to today, which is a shame. Which is the first thing. But the thing that really got me about the interview that he was talking about how when Marvin Gaye made that song, first of all, the great thing about it was he had gotten to a place that he was so good, he was a crooner, that he carried so much weight as far as his fandom was concerned and his success was concerned, that even though it was a song that his studio felt might have been, you know, a little edgy,
Right.
he had creative control.
Yeah.
And so he was able to do it. And he was saying, but the most important thing about that he took away from it was like Marvin Gaye was ahead of his time when he said it, right? And which is cool because I mean, you know, it's cool to be ahead of your time, but the way he phrased it, he says, at his age, Marvin Gaye was saying stuff that people at his age just wasn't saying or just wasn't thinking.
Right.
And that resonated with me because, like, again, and even with working with my interns, I try to tell my interns, like, you know, if you look at your other compadres, your other classmates, they may not be doing what I'm tasking you to do. And I tell you this all the time. You know, they may not be doing what I'm tasking you to do, but I want you to understand you're at a place in life where what you're doing can catapult you, you know, full steam ahead. Or you're at a place in life where you can just look like everybody else and you get what everybody else has. And so he talked about how that moment for Marvin Gaye realized that even though he was young in his years, because he died at 30 or something like that, even though he was young in his years, he realized he had no time to waste. He realized that he really needed to be about what he's being about, or be about, you know, in my term, be about your father's business. And so, like, when you talk about just so you think you're ready, for me, and I look at like college students nowadays, or even high school, you know, late high school students, And it's like they think they're ready. Like high school students think they're ready for college. College students think they're ready for life, and they don't realize that life, when it comes, it
It comes
comes.
fast, and they don't stop coming.
It don't stop coming, man. And there's
Yeah.
no apology. There's no a life does not apologize to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like so you thought you was ready, and then you realize you weren't. And life does not give you an opportunity to play catch up.
Right.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
So it was funny because even in the midst of what you said, it was kind of two places where I was trying to pull from. Just thinking about the question of things of, so you think you're ready. And my first thought was kind of, I've had kind of some of those, so you think you're ready experiences, but I probably didn't have, I won't say I didn't have as many as some people, but just by the nature of our relationship and dealing with you, like the project management and my mother being so detail oriented and all that, and y'all really being hands on with me and making sure that I think ahead or make sure, but you might not have thought about this part, so you should start thinking about that.
Right.
Having all of that coming from you was definitely, even with getting ready for college and all that stuff. How I started going to college visits like freshman year, all that kind of thing.
That's right.
So you guys kind of influenced me and pushed me in a place of doing things ahead of, I guess, that the set time that people will tell you where that stuff happens. So you guys kind of pushed me ahead. So I say my biggest really moments of so you think you're ready was in me leaving the house and like me going to college and that kind of thing and seeing, well, dang, when you don't have somebody from over here giving you this point of view where they know things that go on that you haven't really put thought into, having someone to share that experience when it's just you standing on the experience that you have in yourself, there's a lot of things that it's easy to miss out on.
Yeah.
And so even just like, because a big thing with me is always time management. Because I'm always so lost in thought, so lost in the cosmos, that a lot of times I don't necessarily think about, I won't say the present, but, well, yeah, I will say the present because it's been so instilled in me to think down the line that a lot of times I get caught in my head thinking down the line without thinking about the things that happen now in order to get down the line. Almost to a certain extent, like I get ahead of myself.
Right.
And so it causes me to miss the shortcoming deadlines, the upcoming like right now deadlines, because I'm thinking like, oh, what am I going to be thinking about? What are things going to be about in 10 years, instead of always being in the mindset of, all right, let me do this to walk towards 10 years from now. And so I find myself getting caught up in that space sometimes, even with like school and dealing with not even just like the whole education side, because of course it's that side with like preparing for the test or dealing with the teachers, even just socially. It's really, you don't really understand stepping up to take that responsibility of being the person in control of where you go and in control of your decisions. And I can do anything I want to, but I might need to do this. You don't really understand the weight of that until you're in that place where it's like, yeah, I could do that. Like, I probably should be doing this, but I mean, I don't have to. Like, I can sleep through this class, but I feel tired. I can do that. I have the ability to do so. But it kind of comes back to that. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do that. Or like, you always have to be in this place of mental preparedness. And so with me, I've kind of learned that I need to chart out things for myself.
Right.
I need to see things visually. Yeah, which I'm still getting better at.
Are you? Okay.
I still try to improve.
Okay.
But improve. But just that whole dynamic almost of learning, like what do I need for myself? What do I have to put in place for myself to make sure that I'm on par with what's coming up, so I know that I'm ready when I get there.
So thinking about what you're saying, and then it kind of reminded me of something that Brian Courtney Wilson said in the interview, and then I came up with this. I forgot it that quick, but I came up with this mantra just kind of help remember. It's like every second you sow a seed.
Yeah.
Every second you sow a seed. And so it's like what he was saying was what we have to remember as young people, which I'm not young any longer, but I mean, it always applies. But what we have to remember is that really every second, whatever we do right now in the moment, it's sowing a seed, and you're
Right.
going to reap the harvest. And it's difficult. I know when you're in the moment or young, when you're still trying to feel your way through, to understand the true ramifications of that. Like, um, I made it a habit of telling you. I mean, I guess when you left the fifth grade and went into the sixth grade, went to middle school, recess is over. Like no
Yeah,
more
you did
recess.
say
I
that.
even think I even put a chapter in our book. No more recess, and that's the hardest thing for I think a lot of youth and young adults to grasp is that recess is over. Like they put play early in your life, and
Mhm.
and and they didn't necessarily take play away from you, but they instilled or they instituted more structure later on, and then you have to figure out when is the most convenient time to play. And
Yeah.
as you know, as a young person, it's like, oh no, I'm used to playing right after lunch, man. I always want to play right after lunch.
Right.
And even as an adult, you'll find that if we never really redirect ourselves, like right after lunch, we want to play.
I was gonna say, yeah, that really translates through life too.
Yeah, and so and that's why if for something if we can help people to understand that like every second you sow a seed and you're gonna
Hmm.
reap the harvest. And I guess the young when you're young, like say for instance, if you did something when you're 15 and you sown whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If a seed was sown, here we go. If a seed was sown at 15 and you really reap the harvest, like say for instance, you're about to turn 20, right?
Yeah.
And if you realize that something you did at 15, you sowed your seed was sown, and you're
Uh,
about to reap that harvest at 20. The harvest, because you're just interdependent and not independent, doesn't seem as dire.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Though it is, and so it's hard until you truly get to be independent. And I'm not just talking about you, T, but
Hmm.
you as in anybody at any age, because you got some grown folk who ain't independent,
Hmm.
but until you get independent and start recognizing the true weight of the seed that was sown, that is sending out a bad harvest,
Yeah.
you don't change your actions.
I say, like, even just kind of piggybacking off that thought. I'm almost in this middle place. Yeah, because it's funny that you say I'm about to turn 20 and all that, because it really doesn't feel like it. I
Mhm.
still almost feel like that teenager, like that child, like a freshman in high school or something like that. Life has changed, but I don't necessarily feel
Yeah, yeah.
farther. Like I don't necessarily feel more mature. I feel just like I'm dealing with different things, and I say like I've had y'all in the past to prepare me and make sure that I'm sowing the proper seeds, and so I'm still kind of in that place where I'm reaping benefit of seeds that you guys were there with me to
Right.
sow.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm about to be transitioning into this place where these are the decisions that you made that you'll be reaping the harvest for almost solely.
Hmm.
And so even just thinking about it that way, it's like, man, let me make sure that I'm really
There
on
you go.
point to make sure I'm sowing the right seeds.
There you go.
Um, so it was just funny that you said it that way.
I mean, and maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's the lesson. The lesson is every second you sow a seed. Maybe I get a T-shirt that says that, and
Mm.
start a whole marketing campaign around every second you sow a seed. Because if you recognize that every second you sow a seed, you'd be careful about the seeds that you sow.
Right.
And I know my moment of maturity, and I'm definitely not going to discuss it here, but my moment of maturity, one of my true moments of maturity came when I realized that every second I saw a seed. And I mean, I didn't even think about it in those terms because that just came to me. But I realized that there was something that I was doing that was counterproductive.
Uh-huh.
And in doing that counterproductive, it wasn't just affecting me. As a matter of fact, it was affecting me minimally. It was more affecting somebody else.
Right.
And I had the opportunity at that very moment to step up and say, hey, I'm no longer going to sow this kind of seed
Yeah.
because I don't, even though that harvest, it may be, I may get the harvest, metaphysically or something like that. The person or the people that are being affected by the seed I'm sowing, oh man, it's going to affect them in the greatest of ways. And I don't want to bear that responsibility. And so I'm going to change my actions. And so, and life's tricky like that. Life's tricky like that. And so, I mean,
Hmm.
getting back to, so you think you're ready. There's so many things that we think we're ready for, life being one of them.
Hmm.
And if we don't take the opportunity to, um, under promise and over deliver or over prepare, I don't think we'll ever get out of this rut. if we don't realize that every second we sow a seed, I don't think we'll ever responsibly look at our actions, even at a younger age, where we may not see the benefit or the detriment right now. But by the time we receive the benefit of the detriment, it's too late because life's not going to give us a pause button. And so it's just that kind of stuff. And I know it's hard. It's hard because, you want to just roll through life while you don't have a care in the world. When you don't realize that it's a setup.
Yeah.
It's a setup, especially if you don't have some kind of infrastructure in place. Because there are some people, unfortunately or fortunately for them, who have an infrastructure that allows them unlimited do-overs.
Right.
But it's because it's costing somebody else and not costing them.
You never truly get rid of that cost.
Yeah, you never truly get rid of that cost. You just pass it along to somebody else. So yeah, it's interesting. And again, like I said, that's what one of the things that I heard when I was listening to the interview, and he was just talking about, as young people, we have to realize that we have a destiny, we have a purpose, we have something that we should be moving towards, and we typically want to wait until life gets serious to start it.
Yeah.
As opposed to understanding that even at a young age that there's something that we can be doing that's adding to it or subtracting from it. And in most cases, we do stuff that subtracts from it. So by the time life gets started, now you got life coming at you. Now you trying to make up for your deficit.
And you're just behind.
You're just behind. And so
you want to use the not like the easy times, but kind of the times where things are more at ease to get ahead instead of allowing yourself to fall behind.
They say prepare for war in a time of peace.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many metaphors out there that's so funny, man. That makes it makes sense when they slap you in the face. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah, prepare for war in a time of peace. So whoever's listening to this out there in the radio land, T never did give us his specific, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the deal is just remember. I guess those are three things. Every second you sow a seed, remember overprepare, overpromise, underpromise, overdeliver, but overprepare. Underpromise, overdeliver, overprepare. Underpromise, overdeliver, and overprepare. There we go. Yeah. And the one that you prepare for war in a time of peace. If you could just let those sink in, I think those are some really good nuggets that can move you down to when life hits you in the face. Because we all think we're ready until adversity comes.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think you pretty much put it the way it needs to be said. Just make sure you pay attention down the line and you over prepare for down the line, because life isn't like, you want to be in the moment, but you don't want to be in the moment to the detriment of your future.
There you go.
I guess is what I would say. So.
There you go. And I'll even give you a tip towards that, man, which is funny. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to really piggyback on that or not. But here's the funny thing even about that. If you think about it, it's cool to 5 years ago to have telegraphed what you wanted to be doing now. But it takes execution of a plan to make sure that you get there. And so, one of the things I heard you say when you were saying, you're always thinking it, but you're thinking, 10 years in advance.
Right.
And so you trip over the stuff that's
happening
right now. And I think the biggest thing that you can do to avoid that is, when you're thinking about that 10 years from now, start putting a plan in place. Right. Because in honesty, everything becomes execution. And so if it's just execution, you can execute a plan while at the same time future casting.
Right.
But you can't not have a plan to execute and future cast and think what you future casted will come to pass. It won't. You have to execute a plan. And so I'm a big proponent of a big fan of planning. A big fan of planning. And it's funny because, most people think I'm spur of the moment. Because, for the longest, you thought I was a spur of the moment person. And I'm never spur of the moment. I'm always planning. I'm always strategizing. It's just that I do it.
When the time pops up to execute,
plan's
there, so you just
My plan's already there. And so I think that's just the next level of that whole future casting thing, is just to make sure when you future cast, you actually put a plan into place. And putting that plan into place, now execution, it becomes easy. All right, cool. So, Bone Podcast.
Good for me, yeah. Bone Podcast.
Between you and me.
Between you and me.
Holla.
Holla.